Okay, welcome everybody. Welcome to the Pathway to Adventure Council Advancement Seminar for February of 2026. Today we are going to be talking about, in terms of working inside of the unit, Eagle Coach, Eagle Mentoring, and all the different tasks that does as we help guide the different scouts towards that rank of Eagle. And so our speaker tonight is Tom Wetzel, who is the District Advancement Chair for Portage Creek, also associated with Troop 16. So if you don't know Troop 16, they're pretty big. So Tom's had a fair amount of experience working with a number of different Eagles over the years. So with that, Tom, go ahead and we'll leave it to you.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Pat. I'm also affiliated with Troop 308G, that's the girls' troop here. So anyway, this is an extremely important role within your unit, and I'm going to go through exactly why it's so critical for a variety of reasons, and try to lay out here are the tasks to make it easier for you to follow along and guide your scouts to a relatively stress-free Eagle process. We can't eliminate all the stress, that's normal, but we can reduce it considerably if you know all the do's and don'ts of being an Eagle coach. What we're going to do is first define the role of the Eagle coach, talk about their position requirements, give you some best practices, and then we're just going to open it up. Any questions that you have, if you've been functioning in this role and you've got certain things you don't understand or would like clarified, let's go through them. You get better with time, I can guarantee you, but there is a lot to cover. So why is an Eagle coach so important? And I can't stress how important it is. Some troops do not have an Eagle coach, and it hurts them in very specific ways if they don't have one. The first is that it reduces the stress for scouts and the troop. If you've got a scout that, if you're relatively, you don't have a lot of Eagle history, and you're new to the position, you're sort of fumbling along, how am I supposed to do this? And you can reduce your stress just by following along here. But you're going to reduce the stress for the scout, because your job ultimately is to make that job, streamline that process for that scout, make it as easy for him or her to navigate the process. They're looking to you for guidance. It also incentivizes the pursuit of the Eagle rank. How does that work? If you have one or more Eagle coaches within your troop, and some troops only have one. In our case, we're a large troop, we have like 10. And the scouts understand that the process, because they're assigned so quickly, it's going to be difficult, but it's not going to be as difficult. It's not daunting as much as it might be. And so that encourages the scout to saying, I'm going to dive into this because I know I'm going to have help within my troop to guide me. It is the first line of defense for the scout, because you are within that troop. That scout is going to see you at meetings and can ask you questions as they come up. You are available, for phone calls or Zoom calls or whatever, or face-to-face calls at the Zoom meet at the troop meeting, to guide you, how to avoid certain mistakes that they might make, and how to make the process that much easier. And the reason it's also very important is because it streamlines the process for the assigned district Eagle coordinator, who holds final district approval. That's the person each of the districts has an advancement chair. I'm the one for Portage Creek. But I have a whole team of district Eagle coordinators, and they have the responsibility and the authority to sign off on specific Eagle projects and coaches and the whole process, the final lead up to this, submitting the application. If you don't have an Eagle coach, the Eagle coordinator is going to spend a lot more time, and they are handling more than one or two or three at any given time. So they're not as readily available to answer questions. That gets frustrating for the scout. You want to be able to answer their questions as soon as they come up. That's not possible if you rely on the district Eagle coordinator. And the whole process slows down because hopefully by the time the application, the project is put together, it's already been done. We're 90% there. And the district Eagle coordinator can come in saying, and just check it off. Say, this is good, this is good, good. You need to clean up this. But we've had cases where so many of the questions hadn't been answered, or the Eagle plan was so poorly put together. And we're going to talk about, give you some specifics of what to look for in a plan. So it's really important to have that coach functioning. And ideally, you should have more than one within your, obviously, if you're a smaller troop, it's not as critical, but I would even like to say you should have at least maybe 2 or 3 so that you're not doubling up or tripling up. You can assign, I mean, in our troop, we have one coach, who might handle maybe 1 or 2 in a year, and that's it. And they can give them the kind of personalized, tailored service that really helps the process. You're there to facilitate smooth and timely completion of the rank. You have to pass youth protection grading. I should change that. It's every year now. Offer advice. You act as a resource and a consultant. You're teaching critical path issues and work planning. But it's also important to always remember it is the Scouts Eagle rank and their responsibility. It isn't yours. You can't do the work for them. You can encourage, you can praise them, you can say, hey, keep going, you're on the right track, but you can't do the work for them. They've got to figure it out for themselves. This is a Life to Eagle flowchart, and it's nice to follow this along. After a life board of review, the scout has earned life, and he's been active for 6 months, exhibits scout spirit. He or she has had a position of responsibility for 6 months. That's absolutely critical. He's got a number of merit badges that he has to complete. And then he's got the Eagle Service Project, which requires 4 signatures. The troop has to review it. It has to be approved by the district Eagle coordinator. You have to complete the project, and then you've got the signatures of the final report. And then, and only then, do you come to the Scoutmaster Conference, you complete the Eagle application and submit it to the council. The district or coordinator will go through that application with the scout and make sure everything is in proper order. But again, if it's filled out properly at the beginning, at that process, it's going to make that district Eagle coordinator's job that much easier, and it's going to go much faster for the scout. Life to Eagle, the whole process takes at least 6 months, but practically speaking, it will take at least a year or 2. Why? Scout is dealing with merit badges. They're dealing with ranked positions within the troop, but they're also dealing with schoolwork and college applications and dating maybe, or other activities outside of scouting. And time management is a real critical process. And it's a skill that will serve the scout well. So in your role as an Eagle coach, if you can help them manage that time, think about how much time it's going to take. Too often we see a scout that, they start going in for Eagle and they've only got 8 months to go. Is it doable? Yeah, but they're gonna be pushing themselves, and they're gonna have a lot of headaches, and it's gonna be difficult. So for you, the coach, help prevent that panic push at 17 and a half years old, and have them plan out, make sure that they're on track with all the merit badges they're going to need, including the ones that have a time constraint. Ideally, the scout works to complete requirements during the sophomore and junior years in high school, and then the summer before turning 18. And start the three Eagle required merit badges that require 90-day work. Do that as early as you can. And then have them start thinking about the Eagle project. Do they have some ideas about what they'd like to do? Do they have some ideas about the organization they'd like to perform it for? Maybe they have already a relationship with a church or a park district or some other charity within the community that maybe they've worked for, or at least they've admired what they've done. And they say, I'd really like to be able to help them out because I know what good work they do. Get them to start thinking about those things. They have to be active in the troop for 6 months after learning the life. That is that's a deal breaker if they don't make it. They have to live by the Scout oath of law. Hopefully they're doing that if they're at the point where they're going after the Eagle. They have to earn at least 21 merit badges, including the 13 required for the Eagle Scout rank. Hold a position of leadership responsibility for a period of 6 months after earning life rank. Complete the Eagle Scout Service Project. Prepare a letter of ambition, an essay about the Scouts' personal life goals. And usually it's, it may not necessarily be more than a page, but it details what they've gotten out of the troop, what they hope to accomplish going into college, if they're going to go to college or go into the workforce, what their long-term goals for the life, to the extent that they've thought about it. This forces them to think about it and what their interests are. And it helps them focus on this topic. And sometimes they haven't really focused on it. Some scouts are extremely focused. Others are not. This forces them to think about that. But it also helps us, because when we're in a board of review, and I chair a lot of them, I like to read that carefully, and I'll take notes. And I'll come into a board with specific questions. You said this in your, letter of ambition. And could you elaborate on that? That was interesting. I like that. And it helps us and all the other judges understand the process, and what the Scout is trying to accomplish. The more we understand about the Scout, the better it is. They take part in a Scoutmaster Conference, and then they complete the Board of Review. After achieving life rank, you have to serve actively in the troop for 6 months. What does that mean? That means attending weekly troop meetings. It means to participate in whatever form that might take. If they have a leadership position, so much the better. They have to have something within that 6 months. But they're participating in troop campouts. They're participating in high adventure trips. They're participating in all the service projects. And they're helping other scouts on their Eagle projects. That's really an important thing, because they'll understand when their turn comes on their project, they want to be able to turn back to other scouts that have helped them, or you've helped them in their projects, and now they can return the favor. Merit badges, you need 21. You know all the basic ones, the new ones, the citizenship in the society, all the ones there. First day family life, and personal management and personal fitness are all 90 days. It takes 90 days to complete, so they can't start them three months before they turn 18. They got to get those done, and if you can get those out of the way, it becomes a heck of a lot easier for them to meet the deadline. There are some changes that you need to be aware of. Merit badges undergo changes every year. Not all merit badges get changed, but there's always a review. And there are a couple of important changes that have taken place that became active in 2026. First, several merit badges have been upgraded to include both a career option, like home repairs or automobile maintenance, and a hobby option, like birding or astronomy. Some have only one of the two options. Physical examination. This is a critical one. This is no longer required for personal fitness, athletics, or multisport. Instead, Scouts will discuss the importance of having an annual physical examination and why overall health, immunizations, medications, allergies, and medical history are covered during an exam. Obviously, we still require a physical exam to take part in certain activities, but the exam won't be required for these 3 merit badges. Leave no trace has been integrated into a few more badges, specifically exploration, geology, mammal study, insect study, nature, plant science, and bird study. And consistency, requirements in some badges have been reordered to fit a common pattern. Safety issues are first aid is second, and careers and hobbies last. It's an order of importance, obviously. There also have been some changes in the EAGLE process. Specifically, really the only change that you need to be aware of at this point and be looking for it is they require references, only 4. But now on the EAGLE application, you put their names down. There's a spot for it on the form itself on the first page. You'll see it toward the bottom of the page. That's a change from years past. The references were not required. They have to hold a position of responsibility. Assistant patrol leader and bugler are not approved positions for EAGLE rank. What is approved, senior patrol leader, assistant SPL, patrol leader, troop guide, the OA troop rep, den chief, a scribe, outdoor ethics guide, librarian, historian, quartermaster, junior assistant scoutmaster, chaplain aide, instructor, or webmaster. You may not have, I know a lot of troops don't have all of these positions. If you're a smaller troop, you probably don't. And oftentimes what will happen is a junior or a senior, they're going for the EAGLE, they need a position of responsibility, they've already been SPL, and you don't have any other openings for them normally. You can choose from these and you can create something, or you can name them for as long as it's a 6-month duration, and it's an approved position as it indicated here. That'll suffice. So something to think about. If they've never been a quartermaster or a chaplain aide, or maybe you've never had an historian, which is actually great because you're recording, you're documenting what's going on in the troop. That's great for historical purposes, for record keeping, and for sharing with parents. You know, you've got a record of here's what the troop has done over the years. In my troop, we are celebrating our, let me get this right, our 109th year. We were founded in 1916. And we have had booklets published. There has actually been a troop history, and it was written at the end of the 10th year, at the 25th, at the 50th, at the 75th, and I wrote the one for 100. And it's amazing because people can go back and look at what is our history. And you know, you're in a position to talk to a parent about, we've done these wonderful things and here's what we're doing right now. So something to think about. The troop leadership structure, this is going to vary widely. But generally speaking, you're going to have a charter organization rep. You're going to have a committee, hopefully. And then the scoutmaster. And then you've got the assistant scoutmasters for various functions. Den chiefs, patrol leaders. And this is all going to be published on the PTAC website. This is recorded. It'll be up there fairly quickly, so you can refer to that. But it's a guide to help you figure out, you know, how well coordinated you are as a troop. Now we get to the Eagle Scout Service Project. The scout should pursue a project of his or her choice. It has to be from a qualified beneficiary organization. It cannot benefit BSA units or properties. It cannot benefit a for-profit organization, and is not limited to the troops' communities. Expand to the community. It shouldn't be too big. It should be doable, but it also can't be too small. It's big enough to require providing leadership to project participants, and ideally avoid projects requiring a large fundraising effort. Sometimes that's important and that's okay, but that's an extra step and it can be cumbersome. Ask the question, does the scout prefer an indoor or outdoor project? Maybe they haven't thought about that. You can bring that up. What organizations in the community does the scout admire? Does the scout enjoy building something? They work with their hands, landscaping, or collecting, sorting, and distributing used articles to beneficiary organizations. There are literally dozens and dozens of good ideas out there. You don't necessarily want to just choose one that everybody else has done. We like to see some creativity there. And to the extent that you can encourage the scout to, you know, think outside the box. I can give you some examples, but push them in that direction. That's what we really like to see. If they've really put some thought into it, there's a reason why they are performing a project for a particular organization. You have to avoid routine labor and maintenance. That doesn't constitute an Eagle project. You know, painting a fence or a room, that's not an Eagle project. It's a great service. It's a good service project. It's just not appropriate for an Eagle project. It can't be a fundraiser. In most cases, that means a blood drive. A blood drive that's an unusual case, and we could get into specifics about that. That's something that probably a good idea to avoid that. It can't, but the project itself can't be a fundraiser. That's not enough. You might want to suggest the scout develop a work breakdown structure. And you can come up with your own, or they can come up with their own idea on how to go about doing this. The point is that they're actually thinking about the details embedded in that project, because it's divided up into certain tasks, and those tasks have to be completed probably in sequence. and they're going to take a certain amount of time. So they're going to have to think about, okay, the first task is, maybe recruiting scouts. Okay, where are you going to recruit them? Are you going to call them on the phone? You're going to make an announcement to the troop? And what kind of skills do you really want? And because maybe some of the younger scouts would like to participate because it's a new thing for them, but maybe they're not qualified to do, and they wouldn't be, depending on what the task is. They have to think things through and write them down. That's part of the planning process. And then you can have, here's the date that I'd like to complete this particular task by, and you can keep track of how close are we to actually completing the project or completing that particular task. This may be more detail that's necessary, but if they can get in the habit of really thinking about and writing down a plan and being able to execute it, it's going to make their life a lot easier. The project's going to go faster, you're going to have fewer problems with it, and they're going to have more sense of accomplishment as a result. You might suggest developing what we call a Gantt chart. This may be, again, a little bit more complicated than the project requires, but it's something to think about. What they will have to do, however, is if they are going to be using tools or some kind of machinery, whether it's a pocket knife or shovels or rakes, paint rollers, there are age restrictions to that. And this is available. You'll have it in this presentation, but you can also get it on age-appropriate guidelines. Those are listed, on the national site. They need to be aware of that. Again, if they have to recruit somebody who is 16 or older for certain things, okay, they have to understand that and write them down. We're going to ask for that in the project anyway, because the project specifically, when you fill out the form, it's going to ask you specific questions. How are you going to? It's a question of not just I'm going to build a bench, for example, or a storage facility for the park district. Well, break that down into its requisite tasks, and who's going to do what. You're going to have, if machinery is involved, perhaps it's going to be required to be performed by an adult. That's got to be written down. Screwdrivers, line trimmers, all of that, all of those have to be 16 or 18 or older. This is one that we are really concerned about because I've been in situations where the troop does not have an Eagle coach, and the scout is relying on the district Eagle coordinator to, approve things, and the district Eagle coordinator will get an application, a proposal for an Eagle project, and it's nowhere near where it has to be. Not a question of, I don't like this, change that. Certain things that they have to have. And so they get delayed. The Eagle coordinator will come back and say, redo this, rethink this. That's why an Eagle coach is so critical, because we can avoid that hassle. And because 15 to 20% of Eagle projects face big delays because they haven't been approved on the first submission. I'd like to see 100% go through first admission approval, but it doesn't happen that way. 5 to 10% are rejected and require major revisions. Less than 2%, it happens, result in complete restarts after multiple rejections. It's not working, we're still not where we need to be. You need to come up with a different project. Nobody wants to go through that again. The scout certainly doesn't want to. The district Eagle coordinator doesn't want to either. That's a tough call, especially if they're on deadline. That's why getting these projects done well before your 18th birthday is so important. But what this all means is that if you submit an Eagle project proposal, there's an 80 to 85% chance it'll be approved as is. But there's also a real chance, it's more than likely, that your project will need some adjustments. That's okay. That's part of the learning process. Nothing ever goes the way you plan it. You have to expect the unexpected and plan for it. Why do projects get turned down? All kinds of reasons. But here are the major ones that you need to be aware of, and you can help guide your scout to avoid these situations. First of all, it's routine maintenance. It's not a permanent improvement. That's a third of all rejections. It's not just painting a room. That's not enough. Painting a fence or mulching a garden, repainting trail markers. Nothing wrong with it. Good project. It's not enough for a project. These are ongoing tasks the beneficiary will have to do again. It's not a lasting project. Another 25% are rejected because the scout did all the work themselves. If he's the only one, or if he or she is the only one doing the work, that's not a service project, Eagle project. Because the biggest value to an Eagle project is for the scout to be able to demonstrate leadership skills. It's not the end result, it's the leadership that's critical. Managing a team toward a common goal. Planning step by step what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, who's going to do it, and then on the day or the days of the actual work is done, you are supervising. You are the manager. You're not doing the grunt work necessarily. You may do some of it, but they want the district Eagle coordinator, and I as a board chair, I want to see that they have taken a leadership role and can demonstrate that they took this project and ran with it. They understood there were some problems that resulted, and they navigated through that. We rejected for no evidence. The scout directed the project. The adult did all the work. Again, that's not an Eagle project. 20% occur when it's just too small of a project. It's too small. It took less time than expected. The beneficiary decided to do much of the work themselves. That sometimes happens. They say, we're gonna go ahead and do that. The project then becomes primarily maintenance rather than permanent improvement. There may be some technical issues or non-compliance. You didn't get the required approvals before starting. You violated local ordinances or scout policy. The project was on Scouting America property, which is not allowed, or it benefited Scouting America. That's not allowed. There may have been financial or scope changes. The beneficiary increased scope mid-project. They really threw the scout a curveball. Promised funds didn't materialize. That's why if you can avoid a fundraising element to this, that's a good idea. And this happens, fortunately it doesn't happen often, but it does happen. New management at the beneficiary all of a sudden wants to change it, or we're not, we're no longer to do this project. In fact, I've had a couple of scouts in the past year. They worked with the beneficiary, they put everything together, they had a plan in place, and then all of a sudden the beneficiary said, nope, we're not going to do this anymore. That leaves the scout high and dry. And they have to come up with an entirely different project. And we'll work, believe me, we will work with that scout to, find an alternative because they did the work. And it's not fair to the scout, but sometimes that does happen. If you can think about the relationships that the troop has with organizations within your community, you can minimize the chances of that ever happening. That would be a good thing. Now we get to the workbook. The scout must use the Eagle Scout Service project workbook to plan and report the project. It will ask you specific questions and they have to provide specific answers in the project proposal. It's online. The key thing though is make sure that they're completing all of the components of the workbook. Don't leave anything blank, and make sure that it is the latest one because there have been changes. So check that. If you go back to an old website and you find something and it's from 2020, it's not going to get accepted. You're going to have to find, and everything is up online at the national site, and it's available through the PTAC website. So there shouldn't be any problem because we're going to put the current one up, the link to it, and it's up now.
Is the February 24th from 2021 the last one?
No, that's actually there have been some changes since then. I needed to change that, but the point is, make sure that it is the latest version, and it'll say on the bottom of the form, 2026.
Okay.
And the District Eagle coordinator will be aware of that too. Now, so there are some best practices to follow. First, you're playing a critical role to a smooth, timely completion of the rank. That means you meet with the scout early in the process with a parent present. Find out the desire, the commitment of the scout, not the parents. They're observers here, and provide the scout a written description of the Life to Eagle process. And it's all here, so that shouldn't be an issue. And if you want more information, there's actually a Life to Eagle, a 2-part Life to Eagle process webinar that we've done. We do them every year. In fact, Pat Troy typically does them. And those are available on the PTAC website under advancement. All the webinars that we do are there. You're there as a coach to act as a resource and a consultant. And there's no one-size-fits-all formula. You should be asking yourself, how am I doing? And is what I am doing appropriate for this scout? Some scouts, are very engaged. They're, they understand the process. They understand it as well or better than you do. They've anticipated certain things and they've got answers for them. That's great. You don't need to handhold them as much. And then you're going to be others that are going to be struggling and are looking for some guidance. That's where you're going to be a great help. You need to flag time-sensitive merit badges. Suggest merit badge counselors. If some troops have many or if not all of the Eagle required merit badges, but we also require, we don't want troops to be able to handle most of the merit badges outside. We want to force the scout to go outside of their troop. They see these merit badge counselors if they're troop leaders. We want them to develop their social skills, being able to go outside and contact a merit badge counselor for whatever, for nuclear science or for artificial intelligence or for music or bugling. I mean, there's literally 140, so there's a lot. And taking advantage of the merit badge colleges. I mentioned that we've got one coming up on March 28th for all the STEM badges. You're providing an overview for the Eagle Scout project. The object is to teach project management skills. That's the most important element of the service project. Teach critical path issues in work planning, time management. Establish a timeline with goals. Stress lessons learned. One of the questions we ask in a board of review is, what went wrong? What did you learn from your project? What went wrong that you didn't anticipate, or maybe you did anticipate it, and how did it go? We want some very lucid answers on that. And for the scout to say, we had one issue that blindsided me. I really didn't expect it, and it was difficult, but you know what? I figured it out, and here's how I figured it out. Man, that's the kind of life skill that we love to see. That's going to prepare that scout the next time, because they'll be prepared. You check in routinely and ask for progress reports. How you doing? Have you finished? You said you were going to finish, these 2 merit badges when the last time we talked. Where are you? Have you been able to finish them? You're not nagging on them, but you're pushing them and you're asking questions, forcing them to think, I need to get these things done. Ultimately, it's the scout's Eagle rank and his responsibility to get it done. But you can be there, and maybe they're struggling with a merit badge. Maybe you can step in and saying, have you thought about that? Or this merit badge counselor isn't working out. It's really hard to track him down. I can't get a meeting with him. Okay, let's see if we can find another one for you and provide that issue. If you are, you certainly have access online in Scoutbook to the complete listing of merit badge counselors in PTAC. And you can break it down by merit badge and by district. And, have you looked at gone into Scoutbook? Do all of you somewhat familiar with Scoutbook or My Scouting?
Vaguely, I didn't know. I wasn't aware that the list of merit badge counselor was there.
If you go into My Scouting, what you're going to see is on the left-hand side a tab called Roster, and that's a roster for your troop. And you click on it, and you go down to there's a third bullet. It's called Reports. And you click on Reports, and then you'll see a whole list of reports that you could access. And I think it's the second or the third on the page, which is merit badge counselors. And you click on it, and you get them all. They're all there, and there's a way to filter it. It's very simple to do. And, that could be something that you could do, you could help your scout with at that point.
Okay.
A number of questions. Let's throw it open. I've asked and have answered a couple of questions here. First, is there a minimum number of hours required for projects? The answer is no. There's no minimum age either. There are minimum ages depending upon skills, and maybe it's a project that doesn't require an inordinate number of hours, but it does require a significant amount of management skill and leadership. That's what we're looking for. It's not an automatic formula. Can 2 Life Scouts share the same project? The answer is no. It has to be separate. Now, it could be related. That's a possibility, but they do have to be separate and distinct projects. Mm. It must be a project that's significant. it doesn't necessarily have lasting value. I mean, it can't be something that's going to be done in 2 months. We want something that is significant, certainly, and that is something that the beneficiary has stated they need. What is the proper role of the Scouts' parents in the project? To support. They may be called on to do some of the work. You know, if they have a workshop or a garage that they can, do some sanding or something, or maybe they need dad to do something. That's perfectly fine. But in that project, the Scout's the boss, not the parent. They have to demonstrate leadership ability. Can the Scout enlist the service of adult leaders in the troop to help with the project? Absolutely, they can. That's fine. We want, of course, them to recruit a lot of Scouts for obvious reasons. You're giving the Scouts the opportunity to work on a service project, and for them, the Scout, to manage those Scouts within the project.
A question, if I could, about sort of
Sure.
how big a project. I recognize, every scout's abilities are different. And my philosophy has always been to sort of, help a scout find a project that's a little bit of a stretch for them, but doable. How do you deal with the scout who's, the project on paper meets the requirements, but is clearly not stretching them, is something beneath their abilities, if you will?
Well, that can be tricky. What we typically see is certainly a good service project. In fact, I'm thinking of one. It was a landscaping project that involved some raised beds, and it had some heft to it, but maybe not quite as much as I would have liked to have seen. And in cases, what we suggested to them and saying, let's add let's not change the task, but let's add to it. For example, if it's a raised bed, maybe we have a plaque placed on there. This project was developed by, the troop. It's an Eagle Service project. Maybe you do a little publicity on it in your community, saying that so and so, they've created an Eagle Service project that helps a very well known charity in town. That's a way to extend it easily,
Okay.
Promote the value of it. That works. That's very helpful. And again, maybe I can't think of a situation where there is a project that was too taxing, because part of what can be taxing is if you don't plan it well.
Yes.
If you plan it well and you break it down, it may seem like it's too big of a project, but then you break it down into its parts and say, you do it according to a timeline. This project by itself is pretty easy, and then you get to the second task, the third task, and so forth. All of a sudden, it becomes more manageable to them. So that's another way of thinking about it. What do I need to bring for an Eagle Board of Review? That's a common question. There's no set requirement, but what we like is for the scout to come, obviously with all the paperwork, and we can talk about what's involved there, but in their Class A uniform. It's not a requirement, but strongly encouraged, let's put it the way. And I've never had a scout that didn't want to be there looking their absolute best. And oftentimes if they come, think about it this way, if a scout who's striving to be an Eagle, and he or she comes in blue jeans and sort of lackadaisical, is that really exemplifying the characteristics of an eagle? No. You want them to aspire to be the best they can be, and they should be proud of the fact, and you know, put their best foot forward, because they're going to have these kinds of interviews again, you know, for college or for jobs. And to the extent that they're comfortable in that situation where they're being asked pointed questions and are expecting pointed answers and well thought out answers, that's going to serve them well. And to the extent that they have taken an Eagle project seriously, they may not be very good in expressing themselves, but I can tell you, once you get them into a board of review and it's clear that this scout has taken it seriously, maybe they're not really comfortable in that setting, but you start asking them questions about the project, all of a sudden they can talk about it because they know it inside and out. They know their project better than anybody else, and they're eager to talk about it. And maybe they're not as articulate, you know, as they might be 10 years later, but we get the, it comes through. Believe me, it comes through. I mean, some scouts are extremely articulate. Sometimes it almost seems rehearsed. I'd like to see somebody who could really think on their feet and be genuine. And you know, I love it when I see a scout like that. They're going to go far in life. I can see it. Sometimes overlooked are the letters of recommendation, but those are extremely important. They do not see these letters of recommendation. They come to the board chair, either the district Eagle coordinator who's handling it, or me, or the district advancement chair, and then we share them with the judges. But the letters the scout does not see ever, and then after the board of review, they're destroyed. They come back to me, and then I will destroy them. What is the hidden Eagle Scout requirement of writing the statement of life purpose and ambition? We talk about that. It's mentioned in the Scout application, not in the Scout handbook, but it's extremely important. And sometimes that can be overlooked. And that's another thing that, you know, the district Eagle coordinator will point out, but it's even better if you bring it up as their mentor, as their coach, making sure that they've got everything ready to go. Here's the project paperwork in 21 easy steps. We don't necessarily have to go through them, but the troop committee will assign you an Eagle coach, hopefully. The best Eagle coaches that I've discovered are parents whose son or daughter has gone through the process. They've lived it to a certain extent. They can attend the Life to Eagle webinar in person session. We hold them periodically, and they're online as well right now. The coach talks about Eagle projects. You have to obtain approval from your scoutmaster, from the representatives of the beneficiary, and your district Eagle coordinator. Once approved, you fill out the formal proposal using the Eagle project workbook. Obtain the necessary signatures. Follow your district's procedures for obtaining a district Eagle coordinator to meet with you in person to approve your proposal. This varies from district to district. In Portage Creek, for example, I typically assign a specific person to a specific troop. And so that troop knows that when they've got a Eagle candidate, they know who to contact to keep the process going. Not everybody works that way. Sometimes it's on a case-by-case basis. Either way is fine, but you need to find out how your district handles that. You complete your final plan before you start the work. You can't start work on something before it's approved. And again, fundraising is not recommended, but if you need to raise funds, you fill out the fundraising application. Then you do the project, you fill out the project report and have your Scoutmaster and the beneficiary sign it before your 18th birthday. You don't submit it until you complete all your other Eagle requirements. And once you complete the requirements, you fill out the application, schedule the Scoutmaster conference, then get the necessary signatures before your 18th birthday. You assemble your paperwork, photos, receipts, correspondence, and any other paperwork in an attractive binder for the Board of Review. You have the statement of your ambitions and your life purpose. You submit it to the council. The council verifies it. And you notify the advancement chair that you're ready for your board. And then you contact your troop advancement person, whoever that is, about delivering the binder to your district Eagle coordinator 3 to 4 days before review. That's why it's important that if you don't have everything completed or incomplete and you submit it to the district Eagle coordinator, they're just going to send it back and they're going to specify you didn't do this, you didn't do this, this needs to be changed. That's why so important for the coach to get as much of this done as possible in advance. After you attend the review with your full uniform, your scout handbook, all your merit badges, prepared to answer questions, it usually takes about an hour. After successfully completing the review, the troop, you have the Eagle application, the checklist. We fill it all out. There's a envelope that all the materials goes in, and there are specific things that the Eagle application envelope needs to be filled out as well. Sometimes they're not. That can delay the project because the council has to verify everything. It's in order. And then once approved, then the national office, and it's submitted, you get the paperwork back from national with the Eagle certificate and all the other paperwork. And then you set up a court of honor. And then you can pat yourself on the back. And for you, it's also important to know that there is an Eagle Coach pin that you may be awarded at a court of honor. And we've had leaders that have earned 4 or 5 or 10 of these pins, and they're on their uniforms, and that signifies that they have successfully guided a scout to become an Eagle. And the Eagle was so appreciative and wanted to thank them in a tangible way, they have the option of awarding a pin to that person. And that's usually done at the Court of Honor. And that's pretty cool. Lots of links here. Again, this is going to all be posted so you can, go to the PTAC website. Everything is available on the PTAC website in one form or another. Any other questions?
I'm good.
So
I have a couple.
Yes, Cynthia.
Yes, I have a question. It's how could I know which is going to be my district Eagle coordinator depending on my troop?
You need to, in you said you were in Brookfield?
Yes.
I think that's me.
That's what you said at the
I
beginning.
think so. I was not sure because really
I'll have to look. The troop number is
troop 90.
troop 90.
Yeah,
That
maybe
might-
you took care of our kid. It was toys for the Humane Society. It was at the beginning of last year. Dog toys. Julio Aranda.
No, I'm trying to. I'll have to look. I'll reach out to you, Cynthia, and give you the name. It could be Paul Sulak or um, Tom Frenzel.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't remember because my son really deal with everything.
okay, that's good if you can stay on top of it, but it's good
Yeah.
that he's doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah, and then I was like, I just Uber, like, where are you going? And taking him.
what's your email, Cynthia?
It is INTY,
Okay,
my last name, Aranda, at
so
Gmail.
okay, it's just NC Aranda at
Yeah,
Gmail,
Inti. Yeah, INTY,
right?
IN as in Nancy, T as in Tom, Y, and then my last name, Aranda, at Gmail.
Okay, I'll
I
look it up
have,
and send you a note.
perfect. Then I have another one, like avoid the routine labor of maintenance for a project. Someone asked me that they are trying to like a paint and fix a little trailer for a high school. That is considered an Eagle project. They
It,
want to put some shelves inside,
okay,
painted, and put a
but
deco.
who's the beneficiary?
The school,
The
RB in
school.
this case.
All right.
Mhm.
Um, that sounds like it might be a valid project. If it's just the painting, that's not enough. But building shelving and put those in, that's sounding like it's something that is a good idea. The question is, has the scout talked to the school about this?
That is my question. I send them with the questions. It's like, is the school approving? They really need a shelving inside.
What he needs to do first, before he does anything else, is put together the proposal using the workbook,
Mm-hmm.
and then the district and hopefully you or the Eagle coaches will walk them through it. But ultimately, it has to be approved by the district Eagle coordinator before they can start work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just wanted to be sure if that kind of like a
It
sounds
sounds like it.
possible for.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, continue and start doing your paperwork,
Yeah.
or
And
thinking something different.
they might, and the coordinator might have some ideas about ways to bump it up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that sounds reasonable to me.
Okay. And I have another question for the Eagle Board of Review. Is like a what to bring and etc. Class A, your paperwork, etc. etc. Parents are allowed to be at
Par-
that one.
Parents are not
Okay.
the parent of the scout. They don't sit in on this. There are some exceptions to that. Typically, if the scout has special needs,
Mhm.
but normally no.
Okay.
And there are no requirement. The scoutmaster is not part of the board of review either.
Mm-hmm.
But other leaders within the troop can be, or others outside the troop. It doesn't have to. You don't have to be a registered leader to serve on a board.
Okay. I think that's all.
Cool. Okay. Well, if you have any other questions that you come up with, feel free to reach out to me. My email is on the PTAC website. In fact, all of the district advancement chairs, you can reach us through that. If you have a question down the road, that's what we're here for. And I will be back to you, Cynthia, with your district Eagle coordinator. And if there are no other questions, I appreciate your taking time out of your schedules, and hopefully, our paths will cross at some point. I'm would love to meet you in person.
Perfect. Tom, in your email, could you send me like who is going to be the district Eagle coordinator for the Troop 90, and also kind of like a list of who is going to be like, okay, I see, I meet with the scout first, then I send it to the Eagle coordinator, the district one, and then the papers they need to go back to who, and then to who the whole like a
The
list of
flow.
where the flow where that paperwork need to
Yeah,
go.
all of this, everything in this slide deck will be available on the website anyway. If you want me to send you the whole thing, I can do that.
No, but I think she's asking, because it was not on the slides that we just saw, is what's the process? So we coach the Eagle Scout, and then once the paperwork is done, we'll send it. Let's say it's you, the coordinator, then you'll send it back to us. Then we got you send it, review it with the scout again, then send it back to you. Or what would the flow be there?
The flow is, the Eagle coach works with them as closely as they know how. Follow every, and then ultimately, if you have a question, that's the time to reach out to the district Eagle coordinator and saying, "Hey, am I doing this right?"
Right.
And
Kind of filter.
they're happy to do that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Because I my question was more like, okay, I sit down with the scout, everything looks nice. Then what is first? Like the chicken or the egg? It's like a first go to the scoutmaster. So you need to approve it before it goes to the district coordinator or vice versa. Or
yeah, if you've gone through the various steps, if you've gotten approval from the district coordinator to go ahead with the proposal, he may say go ahead and do it, or he may say the scoutmaster needs to sign it. If the scoutmaster has already signed it, you've got all the signatures except the district Eagle coordinator. That's going to make his job that much easier.
Oh, okay.
He's saying, because what you want to do is get it as close to being finished as possible. Then send it to the DEC, and then they can just sign off on it. But you've already had some conversations probably because you've already proposed the project.
Okay, that makes sense because my son, that is what he did. He went to the Eagle Scout coordinator that he was in charge in that time, the Scoutmaster, someone else, and I think that at the end it was the district coordinator. But he had it kind of like everything, like okay, I like it, change back and forward. And the last one, it was the Eagle coordinator, the district coordinator.
Because that's the authority that can approve it.
Yes,
Nobody
and
else
then after perfect. And after that, it was like you are good to go. And then he started doing properly and organizing and meetings and everything that he needed. Okay.
It gets easier the more of them you do, it does get easier.
I just want to be sure because I was confused. My son was confused. Everyone, we were confused, and we were kind of like learning. And that's why I want to help way more and make this way easier for everyone.
I will also tell you something else. For you in Portage Creek, we have an Eagle coach trainer. And if that becomes somebody else that could actually walk you through certain issues if you're really struggling.
Oh, perfect.
Not me. I've appointed somebody who's really good that knows that he's been an Eagle coach. He's actually been the advancement chair for 10 years.
Oh,
and
perfect.
He stepped down and he's very good. He understands Scout Book in and out and all of the. He's perfect for that, and he's very easy to get along with.
Perfect.
Oh. Excellent. Well, again, if there are no other questions, I appreciate your time, and look forward to meeting you all at some point in the future. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.